Yes, hallelujah for this day, for this amazing sun, for the aurora borealis that we had last night, knowing that it is all God in every space, in every place, in the harmonies, in the talk by Stevie, in every person that has come to join us, whether it be here in our physical location or online, whether you're watching it in this moment or watching it days later. The love is real, people. Love is real, for it is all God, and so it is.
And so it is.
We are an interfaith gathering, a spiritual community that honors all teachings and all spiritual teachers. And now we begin the ceremony that celebrates this oneness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths come for the one universal principle and one universal presence, which we call spirit. Our candle lighter this morning is Claire. And so let us begin. That was a beautiful movement, Claire. Thank you for that movement of safety. The Tao. Honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. Shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of pristine spirituality. Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. Islam, honoring path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the last candle is the healing candle of love. We invite you in the stillness of your own mind to bring to awareness the names of anyone you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and light. Now that our flames of faith are fully lit, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. And so it is. So it is. Our inspirational quote this morning comes from Marianne Williamson. It is one of my favorite quotes, and I'm so honored and happy to be reading it and sharing it with you today. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are so powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? And so it is. More music.
God, you are every mountain. God, you are every ocean. God, you are every canyon, every inch of earth and sky. God, you are everything below. Everything I know is you. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you.
Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Karen Blair Sherman. I am one of the licensed practitioners here at the center that we call the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. And it's so wonderful. Yes, woo. It's so wonderful to see you all today. One of the wonderful things that we love to do is
Pray.
what?
Pray.
Pray. And there are many ways to receive prayer. As a matter of fact, if you are here in the building right after service, you could call on myself, Ann Fleming, Ann Lazenby, Judy, Stevie, Rev, Don, Robert. Any one of us would love to pray for you and with you. We would love to know the truth of you when you are in those low moments, and we love to celebrate you when you are in those high moments, wanting more of just that. So you can call on us for that 1-minute miracle that we call the Om. And you also can put in a prayer request in the box right here as you walked in. Fill out one of those blue papers. We will know the truth for you all week. I will send those out. And then you also, there is a place that you can just click a box and pray online, and Rev Linda will get those out to us all week. You also can call and leave a message at the center. Rev Don will call you back or reach out to one of us, and we will call you back and know the truth. You also, now that we're doing a little bit of things in person, you can call up to any one of us. We're listed, the practitioners, online as well, and you can ask for time just one-on-one with being able to fully know that truth for you. And that takes about an hour, and it's just a wonderful time to just be immersed totally in you. It gets to be all about you. And that's what the talk is about, right? Knowing all those parts of you, those wonderful parts. Okay, so now you have some opportunities for saying yes. You can go to the Taizé. That is going to be this Wednesday, April 13th from 6:30 to 7:30. It's a candlelight prayer service, and our own Ann Fleming will be leading that. It is contemplative prayer, song, chants, and candle lighting. And if you have never been to one, it is beautiful. Our ACSL annual business meeting is Sunday, April 24th, 12 to 1 p.m. in person only, right after the Sunday service. The applications we have received from Joan Heidel and Heather Eldred, who is also in the house today. So all members in attendance may vote. We have a World Peace Project. All are welcome. Tuesday, April 19th at Grant Hall on the APU campus. It's from 6:30 to 7:15 p.m., followed by a silent candlelight vigil. And the Interfaith Council of Anchorage World Peace Project. Oh, that's the one that I just read. I am sorry. Okay. One of the things that we love to do is to give back to our community. So 5% of what we collect all through the month goes back this month to the Upper Susitna Food Pantry. So that is it for announcements for right now, except for Rev Don will be coming up for his minister's moment.
Thank you, Karen. Some of you may have noticed that we have not been reciting our purpose, mission, and vision statements recently. Someone asked me if I didn't think these were relevant or important anymore. And actually, it's the opposite. I noticed that as we got to do those, and we've been doing those since the first part of 2015, every Sunday we anchor every business meeting with focusing on what our purpose is, what our vision is for what we want to become, and our mission statement. And they became just automatic. It was robots. You know, we were just repeating out of habit, and there wasn't anything behind it. We awaken and inspire love and oneness. But we did anchor it with joy. I got to admit that. So rather than just take up dead space, I decided that it would be better to do it more impactful with meaning once a month rather than every week just blurbing it out. So I think it's important that we consider, you know, really, what is our purpose? Why do we bother coming here? It's a beautiful day out there. For those of you that are watching from home, why do we bother coming here? In early 2015, a group of 35 of us came together, and we worked for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days, and we came up with these statements, and it was all agreed to us, 100% consensus. I remember, 3-4 hours we spent on one word. Wow. Grace. Took us like 4 hours to do grace. But what is our purpose? Why do we bother with all of this? It's our reason for being. Join me in stating that. We awaken and inspire love and oneness. That's why we're here, is to awaken and inspire within ourselves and within others love and oneness. And then our vision. What do we want to be? What do we want to be when we grow up? What do we want to look like? What do we want our community to be? So join me in our vision. We are an empowered, uplifting, and inclusive community. And then someday in a sermon, I will tell you the Cliff Christopher story about the importance of mission statement and knowing what our mission is. But it is vitally important that we remember our mission. So join me in our mission statement. We teach spiritual transformation with grace and joy. We got the joy in there. And that's it. Thank you.
When the walls come tumbling down, I choose joy, I choose joy. When the world stops spinning round, I choose joy, I choose joy. When my heart's hard to move, when my music's lost the groove, when I have too much to prove, I choose joy, I choose joy. When hate is all I see, I choose joy, I choose joy. When fear won't let me be, I choose joy, I choose joy. When betrayal and lies hide the light from my eyes, I look up to the sky, I choose joy, I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy.
Before Stevie comes up here real quick, I just want to let you all know what a wonderful moment we're about to receive. This fiery light called Stevie Leniear, who just shows up on multimedia. I always see her, and every time I see a post from her, I'm just so excited because she just shines so bright with light. And you know that she definitely, whatever her message is, she has been attuned with spirit, and it's been showing up since I've known her since she was in the 7th grade. So she's always been that light.
Now, Karen, how am I supposed to follow that?
Just be you, friends.
What's up? Good morning.
Morning.
Let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Thank you guys for showing up today. I really appreciate it. Speaking of students, it's like we agreed on this. I want to talk about a student. That's what I'm actually starting my speech with today. There was a student who was naturally just on top of it, a student who was really programmed in life to make sure that they were top of the class, completed their work on time, good grades, because without good grades, you couldn't go to college, and without going to college, you couldn't succeed. So at a young age, elementary school, this student found herself very involved in the classes, very much active and participating, and doing well. And at some point in time, getting closer to middle school, the student was made aware of the changes in what it looked like going into preteen and how the schools would separate students based on their learning level. If you go into middle school and high school, a lot of the times they have honor classes or AP classes. And at this particular school, the honor classes were in a completely different section of the school. And it came to a point where the student had to ask themselves, do I continue to persevere and show up as strong as I am, knowing that I will be separated from a lot of my friends who are going to be in these same classes? Or do I play small so that way I can stay in my comfort zone with the people that I know? Well, the student decided that friends were everything. And as long as they were retaining the information, it didn't really matter how they showed up on paper. And so this student started to intentionally not turn in as much homework, not participate as actively in the classes, and not go above and beyond to ace her tests. After a couple years of getting away with this and being able to stay in the classes with the majority of their friends, there was a teacher who had been observing the student for a while. At some point in time, the teacher asked the student to stay after class, as of course the student was a little bit nervous. Not a troublemaker per se, but why am I being held after was the thought. And the teacher pulls the student and they just kind of start with, what's going on? And the student's like, what do you mean? And the teacher's like, let's cut the crap. I can tell you know what you're doing. I can tell you know what you're speaking to. I can tell on your tests that you get it, but your homework is half done. Sometimes you're not turning it in, and it seems like you're more concerned with fitting in than standing out and doing what you know you're capable of. At this point, the student had, if I may, a come to Jesus moment. A time and a crossroads where they had to decide if they were going to continue to shrink to fit the room. And after that talk, the student decided no matter what, they were going to give it their 100%. They ended up going off to honors classes, being separated from their friends, but making new friends and still maintaining those other relationships. The student also ended up graduating early, even though it was one of the most difficult decisions because, again, they were leaving their friends. But it was aligned with their path. And after that talk with that teacher that day, that student ended up graduating cum laude and really made an impact for the rest of their life. Now, I'm not going to say who the student was. But the title of my talk today is Claim Your Crown. And when I thought about what this really meant for me, I thought about many times in my life where I was at a crossroads, where I was either going to continue down the path that I was on, comfortable where I was, fitting in to the best of my ability, or I was going to really tap into my truth, my power, what I was meant to do, no matter what it looked like to those around me. And to this day, I find myself having to ask the question, am I being true to me or am I being true to the scene that I'm in? So as I was coming up with this talk, I realized today's a really important day. It is officially Palm Sunday. And though we are not a Christian center, we believe in all faiths and all spiritual teachers. And so as I was going back to do a little bit of research about Palm Sunday and the Holy Week, there's a lot that came up for me. I thought about the symbolism behind why Christ would ride into Jerusalem knowing what was going to happen. Well, obviously, depending on how you interpret it, he was there to fulfill the great prophecy, of which he knew. But what I found really interesting was, up until this time, there had been a lot of different moments where Christ had told his disciples that I don't need you to go spreading my name at the mountaintops, that this was the time for me to make the impact with people individually, and that my name wasn't to be spread. It was going to spread naturally. But when Christ decided to go into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, it was the official mark of I am here, I am the Messiah, I am bringing the truth. Whether or not you love me or hate me, this is what I am. And to me, that was the time where the crown was officially claimed. Now, if you know the story, you know that further in that week it went from celebrations and throwing flowers and greeting him and being super happy to quickly turning into something a lot more dark and twisted. Those same people that were so quick to say, "Our Savior, you're here," were the same ones that turned around and said, "You've betrayed us. You're not fulfilling that of what you said you will." Throw him up on the cross. And when I really thought about this, I knew that there was something beyond fear that Christ was showing us to bring to the table. It was an immutable faith that when we are within our truth, we are unstoppable. So my key points today, as we think about claiming our crown, and I tried to find one to wear today, I did. I figured maybe that would be a little extra. So please see my virtual crown, because it's there in spirit, and I see yours as well. So there are immutable truths when it comes to our relationship with Christ and our relationship just with that consciousness. So we're going to talk about a few immutable truths, things that do not change. We're going to talk about shrinking for safety, because a lot of the times we play small. And I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm kind of tired of it. And lastly, we'll talk about claiming what is yours and what that really looks like. So, immutable truths. Now, what can we just say? What are the facts? Our light can never be buried. And we see after Friday happened, back in the story, and Christ was slain, what happened a couple days later? He rose. Which, whether or not you want to take the story literally, figuratively, metaphorically, the truth is that we believe here that we are beings that are infinite. We are immortal. We have souls that will never be destroyed. Newton's law even confirms this. We are energy. Energy can only be transferred, but it can never be destroyed. So the immutable truth is that our light cannot be buried, and our spirit is eternal. And why is it important to keep this in mind? Because at the times where we may feel like we are at risk of ridicule for shining our brightest light, or that we may be even to an extreme penalized or X'd out, that light cannot be buried. The second immutable truth is our power isn't contingent on whether or not somebody else wants to recognize it or co-sign it. Our power is our birthright. It is woven into us just like our organs are. It is something we cannot separate ourselves from, though we can't ignore it. We can become ignorant to it, but that does not take it away from us. And the other thing that's really important to keep in mind is we are made in the likeness. So as we think about really this story, and I feel like this is part of the reason why I've always felt so connected to Christ even when I went non-denominational, is that Christ was the example, not the exception. Meaning that being a teacher, a healer, a way shower, a being of infinite wisdom, somebody of divine love that would accept anybody at any place. What did he say? Come as you are. Those qualities are our qualities. We are made in the likeness of the Creator. And so as I really thought about that and this idea of claiming our crown, it means being able to tap into the things, the parts of us that are immutable, the parts of us that could never change, even though they can be shadowed. So knowing that those are our immutable truths, let's talk about shrinking for safety. How many times have you felt the need to play small for those around you? Whether it was not being as opinionated because it may offend others, whether it was you're in a setting where you are having a skill set amongst other people and you are not showing your skill to the fullest of its extent because those around you may be at a different skill level and you don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. Whether it's purposely not doing really good on tests So that way you didn't seem like the student that was ahead of your class. Everybody's had those moments, and I encourage you to think back on one of those times where you played small to fit the room. What did it do for you in the long run? I would challenge that at the end of the day, every time that we play small, we are going to be presented with 2 more opportunities to claim our power. So, if you want to keep doing this back and forth, Spirit is here for you. Something else that I thought of is the cycle of death and rebirth is very much a part of what happened when we think about Easter. And I know I'm a week ahead, but being that this ties back to Palm Sunday, I do feel like intrinsically we know that every time we assert our power and claim that truth within ourselves, there is part of our ego that does experience a death and rebirth. It can be painful. It can be scary. It can be uncomfortable. We go through this inner cycle where parts of us that do not serve us any longer may die. They may fade away. And it's very much understandable why we might be hesitant to move forward in our highest power, knowing that we are putting to rest a part of ourselves. But it is not to be feared, for this cycle is the divine cycle of life. We see it in nature. We see it in ourselves. So another thing that I was thinking of was, yeah, it's not all praise. Like I said, this week was a really intense week for not just Christ, but many followers of Christ. And as we look back on this story, what does it teach us? In some ways, it may teach us that if we play it safe, we reduce the risk of condemnation, of rejection, of crucifixion. But that is not where the story ends. The story does not end on Friday. The story goes on to say that beyond the rejection, beyond the ridicule, beyond those that may not accept you, our spirit is immortal. Now, I was looking into a couple of different authors and their take on what it's like to play small. And there was a lot of articles on shrinking to fit the room and playing small and what that looks like. And I came across the Jonah complex. Has anybody heard of that? Well, we know who Jonah is. Also going back to the Bible, Jonah and the whale. And this Jonah complex basically is this complex where in order to not have to run the risk of failing in a department where we have the opportunity to shine our greatest light, we just get paralyzed and don't move at all. So instead of running that risk to do it and fail, even though we could do really great things, we paralyze ourselves and we don't take the risk at all. Joseph Campbell also identified that for any hero, for any person on that brink of making that exclamation of power for themselves, there are 2 things that happen. You receive the call, or you recognize the awareness of where your light and your power is, and then you refuse it. And then after that, you can embrace it. And so if you find yourself having these moments where you're feeling the need to shrink, sit with that. Sit with that and ask yourself, what is it that I am refusing? And what does the world receive from me when I say yes? In life, we are going to inevitably come across others that do not take heed well to our light. And what I say to that is, it's okay. It's okay. Because somebody's immediate reaction is not their final reaction. And I can think of times where I have been intimidated by the light of others. And I'm happy to admit it. I am very happy to admit it. And times where I might have felt like, oof, they are too bold, or oof, they are really confident. I can't believe they would go that far. And my immediate reaction is negative. What happens is I keep going back to that moment. I keep going back to that moment, and that negativity shifts to admiration. And it shifts to, wait, there's actually a part of me that maybe is envious of how much they are willing to step into their full power in their light. And then I'm able to move into honoring that they are that example of what that looks like. And so knowing that that's how my thought process works, I encourage you to also acknowledge that even though you may be getting a negative reaction immediately from somebody, if you claim your power, if you speak your truth, if you decide not to shrink to fit in, trust that this is a divine unfoldment and we don't know every part of the process. But a lot of the times, at the end of the day, what we can trust is every time we claim our crown, no matter what the initial response is, we are contributing to the betterment of the conscious whole. And I truly do believe that. So, does it make sense to shrink at times? Understandably so. But is it serving a higher purpose? Ding ding. So, today's all about claiming that which is yours. Thinking about areas of your life where if you were to allow yourself to perform at your fullest capacity, your life will be transformed. Ultimately, our power speaks for itself. And when you show up and you are one with the universe and one with that love, you may not even be recognizing how often you are in that power. So it's not necessarily forcing yourself to try to be the biggest person in the room. That's not at all what I'm saying. Because our power does come innately when we are one with that universe. However, when Christ rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, clearly people were going to notice him. And we should not shy away from the attention or the people that may notice us when we wear our crown with pride. So I pulled a quote from, and I'm probably going to butcher their name, Maslow or Maslow? We'll see. But it really resonated with me in regards to this topic. We fear our highest possibilities. We are generally afraid to become that which we glimpse in our most perfect moments, under the most perfect conditions, under the conditions of greatest courage. We enjoy and even thrill to godlike possibilities when we see in ourselves in such peak moments. And yet, we simultaneously shiver with weakness, awe, and fear before these very same possibilities. Now, how odd is that? Very ironic to me that the same things that we may shiver and fear because they are so grand are the same things that inspire us in others. I was also reading that this teacher that quoted this was in class at a point in time and trying to start to help students identify that sometimes it may be a little awkward or uncomfortable for you to shine your light, to be in your fullest power, if that does separate you from the rest. But that's okay, because everybody's in their own place within their journey. And so this teacher asked the class, if one of you was to become the next best writer, the next best-selling author, who in this class would it be? And all the kids just immediately start like giggling and like, you know, getting a little bit weird about it and like looking around at each other like, is anybody gonna claim that? Like, nobody's actually gonna claim that. And the teacher saw them shrinking, not wanting to be like, it's me. Not one person said, I think it's gonna be me. And not one person said, I think it's gonna be them. They all just kind of played it safe and looked around at each other like, you're not gonna say anything? You're not gonna say anything? And so the teacher changed his tone and he got a little bit more serious. He's like, one of you in this room, based on statistics, is going to be more successful than the others on paper. Which one is it gonna be? And are you going to reduce your opportunity to fulfill that calling based on those around you and keeping them comfortable? And then you saw the students get a little bit more serious. Now this is just one example of how we may not even recognize that we're shrinking to fit the agenda, the attitude, or the bias of those around us. Another example, and I actually thought this was hilarious because it was so different, but I was like, it makes sense. So this gentleman, and it was an article talking about how he was tall enough to where he had to duck to go under the common door frame. Now, I don't know what that is, probably like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Can't relate. But this gentleman was so tall that he had to duck everywhere he went to get into rooms. To the point where he also recognized that when he was with the common crowd of people, he would hunch his back. He would not stand up straight due to this intimidation factor that he had from just being so tall. And people looking at him differently, like it was somebody that was scary, or maybe they were too confident, or maybe they were too arrogant. And so he actually started to shrink his posture to make those around him more comfortable. And this blew my mind because I was like, wow, that's literally shrinking to fit the room. But the point being, we need to stand tall. The whole story of Palm Sunday is no matter what repercussions, our purpose is to claim our light. And I truly believe that every time we claim this light, we give permission to somebody else, whether or not they like it, whether or not they get it right away, whether or not they show it, we give them permission to do the same. When our faith and our wholeness and destiny prevail any doubt, then we can move through inevitable trials and tribulations with grace and humility. Now, I'm not going to say that you put that crown on and you're not going to have any problems, because we know that life throws us curveballs. But what I am saying is that when you can confidently stand in that power, you can move and navigate in the flow. So I was thinking about different ways of which we can practice, because you know I'm all about now how do we do it? What is the action step for me? How do I bring this to life? It's great to get up here and talk about all the fun stuff, but how do we, when we leave these four walls, change something that we're doing? And I just came up with a couple of things. And I read a few things. One of them was stop saying no. Stop saying no. And obviously when you need to say no, say no. But there are probably a couple times that you could think of in the past week alone. I'd be willing to bet this on everybody in this room, that there is at least a time in this week alone where you said no, when you were doing that to appease those around you. So say yes more often. Be bold and be confident. Trust that you shining your light doesn't have to be forced. It is you being your most authentic self at all times. It's not about putting on a show. It's not about trying to be the fanciest person in the room. It's being that authentic, real, genuine version of you. Speak affirmatively. Even if others are not responding in the way that you would like. Obviously be respectful, but stand your ground. Focus on your strengths. Absolutely focus on your strengths, and I cannot stress that enough. Celebrate yourself often, and choose your circle wisely. Now we saw, obviously, there was 12 disciples that Jesus kept around him. And when I say choose your circle wisely, I don't mean if anybody is looking like they would potentially be a Judas, X them out, because that's not what Jesus did. But it is recognizing that where you stand and how you show up doesn't have to appease those in your immediate group. And having people that are going to accept you no matter how you show up, no matter how big you show up that day. Embrace your unique. I can't tell you how many times when I was taking classes to get my practitioner's license where they would ask us some very thought-provoking questions, Reverend Dawn. I also had Linda Steiner. So you can only imagine some of the dialogue that would come up in these courses. Got a couple witnesses in the room too, some people that I had the pleasure to take classes with. And even somebody who you might assume, like myself, is bold and outspoken, there were so many times where my answer, when I heard the people sharing, was nowhere near aligned with the common theme that was being shared in the room. To the point where not only was I like, should I share? Should I change my answer? Have I been responding wrong? Like all of these thoughts went through my mind on why was my answer different, and now what can I say instead? And Zoe. Something about Zoe. She would look over at me and she could just tell. And so what she would start saying to me is, we want Big Stevie. We want Big Stevie. And I mean, it's such a simple concept, but she helped me recognize in the moment, in a protected space, how easy it still became to want to fit the mold of those around me and to not ruffle feathers or to be judged or critiqued or looked at differently from my own experience. And so it's not always about claiming your strengths and all the things that you're good at. Sometimes it's claiming your pain, claiming your past, claiming your history, and not shrinking those truths to try to fit the norm. And I cannot thank all of the students enough for contributing towards that space where I was able to develop what it felt like to put on my crown. So what I want you to do when you leave is think about what it's like to be Big Karen, what it's like to be Big Dawn, Big Heather, Big Judy. What is it like, and when you're playing small, just hear little Zoe Bigelow in your head saying, I want to see the big person. That really changed my life. So, my key takeaways for today. With risk does come great reward, but that doesn't always eliminate the risk. But either way, we move forward. Our nature is to be powerful. It is our divine birthright. It is in our DNA. We are made in the likeness. And therefore, would you stop breathing because it made somebody uncomfortable when it's something your body's meant to do naturally? Probably not. And you could try to hold your breath, but eventually what's going to happen? I'm going to leave that for y'all. And the other thing is, the more often you step into your power, the easier it becomes. And we start to spread that light to one another. As I was writing my takeaways and I wrote that last piece of how that light spreads, I saw this visual of a whole bunch of matches. And I saw this meme on Facebook, not to give you my sources, but it was a whole bunch of matches. And they lit one match only. And what do you think happened? That flame, slowly but surely, hit all 10 matches in that lineup. And it just spread from one match to the other, based on that one match being in its full flame. So, with that being said, I invite my colleagues to join me as we anchor this truth, as we take this moment to claim our power, recognizing, first of all, that that power is the power of God, that the nature of the divine is our nature, that these characteristics of love, power, strength, and confidence are the same characteristics that were woven into the DNA of each and every soul, every life form on this earth, on this planet. And so as we take this moment to recognize that truth, that love, that universal presence, allow us to look within and see that light, that spark of the divine that is immutable within our being. That though we can turn away from it, it does not go out. The match that always keeps burning, that is our truth. And so I speak this word for anybody that is shrinking at this moment, that they can stand up straight, trusting that they are that light for the world, trusting that as we claim our crown, we create more crowns to go around. And so it's with full confidence knowing that each and every one of us are part of that divine puzzle piece. That as we figure out where we fit in, it allows that space and place for everyone else to find their part of the puzzle. And so we just claim this love, this confidence, this boldness, and we assert that which is ours with great thanks and gratitude for the message, for the understanding, but also for the example that was Christ. And we just allow ourselves to be with this truth, releasing and surrendering the doubt, the fear of rejection that may have been holding us back. And when we allow ourselves to eliminate that fear, all that's left is that love. And so we just claim it, for it is our birthright. And everything else, we just let it be. We let it go. And so it is.
So it is.
feel rich, I feel strong, I feel confident. I feel rich, I feel strong, I feel confident. Woo! Yes. Talk about Zoe. Zoe right there.
Well, Zoe is here in person, I think. We got a double dose of Zoe today. This is the time in our service where we are afforded the opportunity to participate in the law of circulation. Some of the people that are online today: Trish Wade, Lynn Prosick, Marion Brown, Judith Mack, Pamela Belzer, Desidera, Candy Moore. Thank you all for watching today. It was February, our donation went to the Alaska Literacy Project, and I got the sweetest thank you note from their executive director explaining how our donation enables them to achieve their mission of creating literacy throughout Alaska. It's really a great thank you note. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. And well, it's a good thing I've got I'm prepared. Here we go. And join me in our affirmation.
Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
All right, there's that,
And there's this.
there's this.
Thank
Yes.
you.
All right.
Missy?
Sing the song of jubilation, because our hearts have been set free. The gift of God is alive within us. The joy, the peace, the majesty. We're learning to love, to learn how to live. For within the Spirit, love is all there is. It's so pure in heart. In God we dwell. With gift of vision, we now can tell that God is real. God is magnificent. God is light. God is love. I am real. I am magnificent. I am light. I am love. You are real. You are magnificent. You are light. You are love. We are real. We are magnificent. We are light. We are love. God is real. God is magnificent. God is light. God is love. Okay, so as we're coming to a close, what a wonderful message. It was such a beautiful message, and I'm so grateful. So I'm going to ask you, are you living your big self? Your powerful, bold, authentic self? When we show up as our truth, and in our truth, we give others permission to do the same. One of the things that I came up with today as our affirmation was, I am always and in always enough. And then I got this, so we're going to repeat. I am blessed beyond measure. I am blessed beyond measure. And so it is.
And so it is.
Oh, one more thing. Yes. We have no water in the building, so no flushy. Sorry.
All right, now let's
Otherwise, we're blessed.